Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he was quite drunk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does that.
At Shyamalan. And then next to me, we got...
My name is David Crossan. I have a channel called Retro Gaming Rewind, which not a lot of people have heard about, but I was one of the founders of the original Classic Game Room way back in 99 to 2000.
So if you had a 56K modem...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's how it goes?
Yep.
Hey, I'm James Reiner on YouTube as James Reiner, and I'm one of the global administrators for a game called Shenmue for the community for it.
So this is definitely going to be about you talking.
You guys ever heard of that game? Does anybody know about Shenmue at all? Anybody ever heard of it?
Oh my God, what if no one put up their hands? That would be fantastic.
Why
are you here?
At Castle Point that happened. They're like, "Anybody know Shenmue?" And I was like, "Oh,
What? Shamu, the whale? What?
Like, it's a Making Sega Great Again panel, and nobody knows what Sonic the Hedgehog is in the crowd. And it's like you're trying to
Sonic must go fast.
Yeah. Okay, so we're here to talk about making Sega great again. Now, unfortunately, this isn't going to be a very positive panel. It's, there's going to be a lot dishing out, but I think that there's enough people on here that like Sega. I mean,
It's not bad.
You've done tons of videos on Sega. You've created an industry around Sega, and you were making videos early in the day when Sega was still actually
When
making
the Dreamcast
consoles.
Yeah, dude, you're OG. You're like the only one here who was making videos when Sega was making consoles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dreamcast, when the Dreamcast launched, we were making like videos when the games first came out. So yeah, it was crazy, but nobody was watching them because again, 56K.
So the first time it was like, oh my God, there's Dreamcast reviews online, and I was watching them. It was fantastic.
When did you start Classic Gaming?
Sometime in '99.
So you predate YouTube by 6 years.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So basically, we were trying to sort of like create our own YouTube before YouTube actually existed, but obviously YouTube just had an insane amount of resources to actually make it happen. But we were just sort of like a little shop out of Pittsburgh, and we were just like doing everything ourselves, our own compression, the publishing, all that stuff, the advertising. We were just like posting on forums that nobody actually read, so it was hard to actually tell if anybody was actually watching the show. Let's just put it that way,
Okay, awesome. So how do you want to do this? You want to just do, you want to have questions? How do you want to do this?
I guess
Sega-themed questions I think would be appropriate.
Sega-themed questions about Sega things.
Sega thing.
Sega.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a Sega thing? There we go.
Does anybody miss Fantasy Star Universe?
I guess so. Did any of you ever play Fantasy Star Universe?
I miss the one-player Phantasy Star games. That's what I grew up on. That's Phantasy Star to me. I never actually played any of the online games, even though I bought Phantasy Star episodes 1 and 2 on Dreamcast.
Yeah.
I actually have the broadband modem. I imported it, but I never actually did anything with it. I never actually hooked it up because I know there's like a network of people that still play it, I guess.
Yeah, you can still play Fantasy Star Online
Yeah.
on the Dreamcast online.
I was
You
just
just
too
have to
lazy.
kind of know what you're doing.
And that's really difficult now, because unless you have a broadband adapter on your Dreamcast, you're going to be going through a 56K modem, and that is fun, because that did not age well.
Yeah, no, not at all.
No.
there's a hardware movement right now in the Dreamcast scene where they were able to actually replace the BBA. So hopefully more people can get online now. So I forget the name of it though, but I'll send it to you later.
Well, a cool thing to know about the Dreamcast is like a lot of people like the Dreamcast console, and maybe you weren't around when the Dreamcast was like really popular, which means you're super young, and we're gonna stop swearing right now just so that nothing bad happens. But with the Dreamcast, what's so interesting is that console died at its peak. Most consoles die incrementally by just losing games, and then the next system comes out. But the Dreamcast died right at the top when everyone's still on
It was almost born on life support.
Yeah,
it really was.
right?
Like,
So
most
yeah.
of that console was funded by, I forget his name. Any of you guys remember the name of the guy, the Japanese dude who was like solely funding the Dreamcast?
Mr. Sega.
Not Mr. Sega.
That's not his name.
Well, anyway, there was a guy in Japan who was like multi-billionaire, and like he was single-handedly funding that console to keep it alive because it was not bringing in money. And then he died, and then a week later they pulled the plug because they were like, "We're out of. That's it. There's nothing else."
I think he left like before he passed away in his will. Like a lot of his assets were just given directly to Sega
Sega
without
employees and
question.
stuff, yeah.
He was like the big. Like you might like Sonic the Hedgehog out there, but he loves Sonic the Hedgehog. Like he cared so much about that company. And when the Dreamcast fell, and when they finally closed shop, it closed shop at its peak when there were still really amazing games out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
such
some
good
that hadn't even
talent.
come out yet. Like Shenmue 2 had not been released yet, and it still was going to be.
Yeah.
So to have your console died at that point means, wow, that was a pretty good piece of
Yeah,
tech.
they had Gun Valkyrie going. Like a lot of early Xbox,
Yeah.
like, Sega published titles, which started out as Dreamcast games.
Yeah, we can all thank Peter Moore for screwing us on that one.
Yeah.
You guys familiar with that story? Peter Moore was president of Sega at the time of North America, and he basically canceled all the Sega titles and pushed them over to the Xbox, and everybody's like, why are you doing that? And then eventually it's like, oh, because I'm getting a job at Xbox. And he like sold us all out to do that.
And then nobody bought an Xbox.
Yeah.
It's just like
I did.
It
How about the Xbox?
The Xbox.
That's your real Dreamcast 2, the OG Xbox.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it's what we look back at the older systems with like fond memories and stuff like that, but it was GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2. Like it was insane. The
Oh, yeah.
disparity.
Yeah.
between
You
the
combine
systems.
the GameCube, PS2, or sorry, GameCube, Dreamcast, and Xbox sales, they don't even reach like half of what the PS2 sold.
Oh yeah.
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 It was insane. Like that console's totally.
What are the numbers on the PS2?
PS2 sold 155 million.
155. Wow.
Dreamcast sold 10.
The Texas dollar sign, just too much. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to say lots. Like it was
Texas
insane.
dollar sign?
Yeah.
I know you're Canadian, but that's not a thing.
A lot. Many. Thousands. Hundreds.
Many
Would you say a
Okay.
plethora?
Yeah, a plethora. Yes. But yeah, I think there's a couple of there's people out there that love. I mean, Sega still exists now, but not the same way we remember them in the past. How many people out there are huge fans of Yakuza? Yeah.
Two people.
Wow.
3.
But you're big fans, right? Yeah. See, once you play Yakuza, you know you like Yakuza.
Yeah.
That franchise.
Yakuza's
Once
a
it
great
gets its
way.
hooks in you, man.
Yeah. Once you start to realize, wow, you can just go anywhere and literally do anything. Oh, you go into that pool hall and just play like a quick mini game of pool? No, you literally made an entire pool game that happens to be inside Yakuza because why not?
Yep.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And that's
Yakuza's like an interesting way to explain to people what Sega is. Because like I have a lot of friends that I work with who
Totally, dude.
never
Totally.
played any Sega content growing up, and I'm like, here, play Yakuza, and they're like, there's a part in this game where you can go in and like masturbate, and I'm like, yeah, that's Sega. They were nuts. They were always nuts. We grew up with this, so we know they're crazy, and it's fun for us. But it's a great way to introduce people, and that's Yakuza's like the last visage of OG Sega.
And they've even got their I forget what the arcades are called, but they have the machines in there. You can actually like load up and actually play the games.
Yeah.
But then the storefront is actually called whatever it's called in Japan. I can't remember. Yeah, is that Club Sega?
Yeah, Club Sega. I mean, James and I are the only two up here. I'm assuming they've been to Japan. Yeah. We were both there like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And not together. It was just a weird coincidence.
Yeah, we missed each other by
We missed each other by a day. But anyway, so we were wandering around, and Sega is a totally different company over there.
Yeah.
Like here, they're irrelevant. You don't see them anywhere. Over there, giant billboards that just say Sega on them for some reason. And like they're involved with so
Sounds
many
awesome.
things you would never expect. Like they do publishing for games over here. Like Call of Duty is published by Sega in Japan.
Yep.
Why? I don't know. Same with Warner Brothers games, all their stuff, all those Lego games, they have Sega's name all over them. They're just a huge publisher over there. So they're really socially relevant, but outside of Japan.
And like a weird thing that you don't even think about anymore is like we think of Sega as a video game company, and in Japan they partner with the pachinko company.
Sammy kind of forcefully took over.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of things they do there, but what many people don't even know is what Sega makes a lot of money at right now is hotels. They've got hotels, theme parks, they've got resorts, and they're just called Sega Sammy Resorts and stuff like that. And like
Sega is, I wouldn't go to the same success level as Disney, but it's kind of like that. Like they just, Disney has hotels. Would you expect that from them? No, but Sega is kind of like that in Japan. It's very strange.
They're like
Absolutely
if Hilton made a video game system. It's weird, and the way that it works is just like Konami. They own multiple ventures of multiple things, and Sega has a holding where they just go around and buying whatever they want to get. But I would argue that with Yakuza, because Yakuza has like 1 billion games inside of it, that all of the people making games at Sega is like, I got this really good idea for a racing game. We're gonna put it in Yakuza.
Yakuza,
No,
fine.
I want it to be a standalone. No, it's going in Yakuza, and that's what it is.
It'll be a slot car racing, and you'll go in. Yeah, like every single mini game you can think of is inside of a Yakuza game.
Yep.
Including Masturbation Simulator. Like,
Yep. If you want to get into this game series after hearing the wonderful jokes about that, which is not a joke,
I wish
serious,
it wasn't a joke.
yeah.
That's a real thing.
Get Yakuza 0 because it takes place before any of the other games.
That's a great
That's
game.
the one that Sega of North America didn't censor. They're like, you know what? Just fine. Just take your damn Masturbation Simulator.
And by the way, like it's super Japanese. Like you may think Japanese. No, this is super Japanese. There are things in here that do not make sense in North America.
Yeah, the whole there's a whole submission in Yakuza 0 where you're like helping this guy who thinks his girlfriend's cheating on him, but what she's actually doing is selling her panties, and you have to like you have to like track down like the mafioso head of the group that's enforcing her to sell her panties. That's a thing in Japan. Buying panties out of vending machines and approaching girls like, but that's all in the game. They just left it, and then so you're playing as a Westerner, you're like, the hell is this? So I highly recommend it. It's insane.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. Like that is seriously right there. Yeah, it really is. I remember that sequence, and I was thinking, boy, this is a weird thing to have in a game.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't translate. Like, there's no. It's translated in English with text, but they didn't actually have any voiceover. I was just thinking, yeah, because who are you going to get to voice over that in North America?
Oh, I'd do it.
I think Nolan. I'll get Nolan North to be the girl. He's in everything. My God. But yeah.
I guess that answers your question. I hope about Fantasy Star. Next, anybody? Go for it.
Does Sega mean something in Japanese? Or
It stands. There you go. Service games. It's actually founded in Hawaii. It was actually an American company that got pushed out to there. It actually stands for Service Games.
Yep, started by an American. That is, we had a whole history panel on that yesterday. It's hilarious to think that Sega is that, but what's also really funny is Sega actually got into video games a little bit before Nintendo too, but it was a long time ago. Like they were making amusement games when Nintendo was still making cards.
Card games.
Yeah.
Yep.
And instant rice packets.
Oh, you mean Nintendo?
That I did not know.
Oh, yeah.
Nintendo, interesting. If you can find one of those, I'm pretty sure someone will pay a lot of money for it. Don't eat it
This
though.
whole Sega Forever thing.
No, Sega Forever.
Indifference.
So, for those of you that don't know, Sega Forever is Sega taking their old games and re-releasing them, and re-releasing them with advertisements on them so that you can download the games for free and just play them on your phones. It's a neat idea, but they made this huge thing like, we're gonna change the way you think of Sega. Ad-supported games? Isn't that like everyone doing that for the past, like, ever?
Every time Sega fans, I think, have gotten used to just disappointment from Sega because like they always do this. I remember one time they showed like this teaser and it was like it has some grass and some leaves and everyone's like, Shenmue 3 is finally coming. It's gonna be Shenmue 3. This is a soccer game. Like that's what Sega does. They just throw things out that make you get excited because they know we're nuts. You'd have to be to like Masturbation Simulator, but like that's what they do. So I'm never surprised when it's like, oh, this is actually nothing. Because Sega of North America is terrible, dude.
I'm kind of hoping that it's sort of like some like marketing experiment that they're doing, where they're just gonna throw all their old back catalog out there and see how people react to it. And if some of their old IP is like really catching on fire, then those are the ones that they actually sort of make new games for. I'm sort of like trying to see the silver lining here, and like that's kind of what they're doing. But like you said,
they prey off of your
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's the thing is that they constantly disappoint over and over again, except for Yakuza. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping that's what it is.
They've also been like teasing certain consoles they haven't pushed out into the mobile market yet. Like they posted a picture of the Saturn recently, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so Saturn on mobile would be pretty cool.
Didn't they?
Yeah,
lose
I mean
most of
anything because most of the stuff that they always put out over and over and over and over again is from their Genesis
That's
catalog.
because that's what people in North America remember.
But I mean, they have such a great catalog
Yeah.
on the Master System, on the
But those
on the
never
Sega
sold
CD.
well. The reason they pushed Genesis is 'cause everyone in here, I'm assuming, remembers Genesis at least. Yeah. How many of you own a Saturn? Okay, all right, bad room because everybody.
It's too many games.
Yeah, I know. I keep asking that. Like, I should be surprised. But question.
Favorite
You have good taste.
No, thank you. And then I started to see that, and I was hoping it would continue, but it didn't. What do you think stopped it? And
Lack of sales.
Oh.
It's got to be always what it is.
But do you think Sega could make a resurgence with the same remastering? Because if they did a remastered Skies of Arcadia Legends game, that would be phenomenal.
Well, first of all, they did put that on the GameCube, right? And
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Skies of Arcadia was Dreamcast. Skies of Arcadia Legends, which was the director's cut of Skies of Arcadia, was for the GameCube.
And that was a huge mistake for them to do because the GameCube didn't do that well either. So
If they put it on the PlayStation 2, it probably would have done.
yeah, if they did like that's I think that's one of the reasons why the Yakuza franchise has been on Sony platforms because people buy those, and the GameCube didn't do well. Halfway through the lifespan of the GameCube, they actually stopped making them. That's never that doesn't happen. But it's Nintendo, so eventually people were going to buy those stock. So there was all these games that they're making for the GameCube that just didn't do very well. Eternal Darkness is one. I think Geist is another.
Yeah.
And there's all these games, even first-party Nintendo games, that just didn't sell well on the GameCube. And that's one of the big reasons why and they did a lot. They brought a lot of Dreamcast games over to GameCube. They just really did poorly. And then the other console they worked on was Xbox, where you got a sequel to Jet Set Radio on Xbox, and no one bought the Xbox nearly as much as the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
If they had just chose the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2 got Yakuza, and now where's Yakuza? It's 1,000 different games.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, we probably, can you imagine a world where we're still getting Panzer Dragoon games, still getting Jet Set Radio sequels?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Now, but more specifically, I believe you were talking about the HD re-releases that were coming out. They redid Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, those types of things. That's what you're asking me? Why they didn't keep doing that? More sales. You guys know what he's talking about. Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 re-released 360 digitally. Because they also chose weird ones, like Sega Bass Fishing. Really?
Yeah, I have that collection, that disc
the
collection.
Dreamcast collection
Yeah.
for the Xbox 360 includes a game that was never released on the Dreamcast in North America anyway, Space Channel 5 Part 2. And then you picked Sega Bass Fishing, and you did Crazy Taxi with different music, and you did Sonic Adventure. And it's there's so many obvious titles. You did Shenmue, anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Where was that?
Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah, and I think it just simply didn't continue because it clearly just wasn't making any money.
Yeah, and they just weren't making good decisions.
Yeah, they never do. But it basically goes back to what I was saying before. Genesis is the only thing people buy that associate with Sega.
Yeah.
And they did those Genesis collections; those actually did well. But there's only so many times you can re-release the same disc with 1,000 games or whatever. So they just switch platforms. Hence Sega Forever.
And a big deal with how Sega really operates, and I think it's something that hurt them a lot, especially with the Dreamcast, was we got Crazy Taxi and a lot of other arcade games, Dynamite Cop.
Dynamite Cop. Did they even make that?
It was arcade originally, and they
Yeah.
brought it over, right? There's all these arcade games that they're bringing over at home, and all the other developers of consoles, Nintendo, Xbox, Sony, they're making, they're actually making games for those platforms, not for arcade and bringing them over. But Sega was so focused on bringing arcade game experiences home that those games are really fun to play, but they're not home experiences,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And that started to bug people a lot, especially with the Dreamcast, where
Yeah,
our
that was the
gamers
breaking point for me, sort of, because I've been a huge Sega fan my entire life, and all of their games that they'd sort of ported over after they, obviously I really loved, the Master System, the Sega Genesis, and they made a lot of really good one-player experiences up to a point. And then they sort of really kind of focused on bringing arcade stuff. It was really kind of when the Saturn came in. They were really focused on bringing arcade ports home and nailing arcade ports because that's what they thought everybody wanted.
There's a reason for that.
Arcade accuracy,
There's a very
But
specific
then,
reason for that.
They completely lost focus on one-player deep experiences that you can only get when you're playing by yourself at home in a one-player game.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started to get pulled over to Sony PlayStation and all that stuff because it was just, that's where I was getting it, And some of the arcade stuff, it would hold me for a little while, but I would just want to move on and get really involved with something.
The sad, simple reason for that is arcades in Japan are still stupid popular.
Yeah.
So they're Japanese. That's why they're doing that. They're this is what we want, so this is what everyone wants. It's not the case.
And making an infrastructure of people that love arcade games. And you buy Sega games because you're gonna get that one-on-one arcade experience. Then they would release a game like Skies of Arcadia that might not do so well with that audience. But what really is a killer is, okay, here's 17 amazing arcade ports. They're gonna be one-to-one, beautiful. You're gonna get Power Stone 2, amazing fighting games that feel just like the arcade originals, and you're gonna get them at home. And now, when you love arcade, we're going to give you a game like Shenmue, which is like, wow, like it is like, this is not like any of the arcade games,
No.
and it caught people totally off guard, and it was a completely different experience.
And it has arcade games in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best of both worlds.
It literally has a Saturn in it.
Yeah,
It's technically not okay.
Yeah, because the game takes place in 1986, and then you're just like, here's this future console that doesn't exist yet.
That's actually what's hilarious too, is if you're looking for certain remasters, actually, if you want to play Outrun right now, buy Yakuza 0, because I don't even know why, but when they made Yakuza 0, you can go to Sega Club, is it?
Club Sega.
Club Sega,
yeah.
and you can actually get Outrun, and you can go into the arcade. One of the arcades has at least. You can play Outrun, and they were like, "Oh, you're just gonna throw the emulation up." No, they actually worked really hard on making the emulation one-to-one. You can get scanline support, resize the screen. The game plays better on there than it does on any other home version I've played of it. It's stuck in Yakuza 0.
Well,
It
I
really
guess,
is
like, I think
fantastic.
you kind of mentioned before, like their entire game development team seems to just work on this one game. Like
It-
anybody has an idea for a game, just put it in Yakuza. So they all do their best, just grouping it into this one franchise.
Yeah, like there's a tournament fighting game in Yakuza 0. It's just hidden there, literally under a lake, because that had to happen. and it's like, there's like a glass elevator, and it doesn't even fit in the 80s, but they just did it there because like, whatever. And they put it in there, and it's good, it's competent, it's actually, it feels like a really good game. If that was the only part of the game that was Yakuza, you'd still like it. And that's why I think people can get like, you know, somebody will go, oh, I can dump like 200 hours into Zelda. Buddy, with Yakuza 0, you can dump 7 years. There is just so much game in there.
Yeah,
It's
it's
insane.
insane. It's absolutely nuts how many different things are in there. Go for it.
Is that version of Outrun and Yakuza 0 better than the Saturn version?
Easy.
Yeah.
Easily.
What does it have to be mixed tracks that were in the Japanese version?
It has.
Does
It
it have
has.
like the increased frame rates?
Well, they. What else? What did they do?
Saturn
Don't look at me, this is you.
Outrun Saturn has 60 FPS.
Oh, sorry. This one has 60 frames per second. Yeah. No, they did everything. Like you.
Well, what about but the
You literally have options. You have emulation options that they built into an arcade game in the game. Does like when you actually go to sit there and play the game, it just looks regular, but then it gives you options underneath to resize things and do all that stuff. They did everything, including vibration support in the controls, because when you usually played Outrun, I think it had like
Yeah,
on the steering wheel.
yep.
So they put that into it because why not? They did everything they possibly could.
but no remix tracks.
I don't think that because they wanted to stick original to the
Arcade,
original
yeah,
game.
it's an actual arcade port, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully down the road, like as the modding communities grow for the PS4, maybe we'll get a Sega Model 2 emulator on the console. You know?
Maybe. It'd be
Yeah.
nice.
So actually to add on to Outrun, the reason why that port in particular is really good is because they had M2 develop it, and the 60 FPS mode on the Saturn actually was kind of flawed because they weren't able to get the scaling right. And M2 had actually developed Outrun 3D on the 3DS, and they fixed it there. So the one in Yakuza 0 is actually based off of that version. And that kind of brings me to what I want to say about Sega. It seems like right now they're really into preserving some of their older games. So we've been seeing a lot of re-releases of their old classic arcade games. M2 is really well known for porting stuff. Like they did a lot of arcade ports on 360. Like if you guys know Mushihime-sama, which is one of my favorite games, it's an arcade shooter. They did a really great port of that. And but yeah, I noticed that Yakuza is really about preservation. And Yakuza 5 that has Taiko no Tatsujin in it for no reason.
Yeah. When I was in Japan, the only reason that I knew how to play that game was because of Yakuza.
Yeah.
I walked up to it and I was like, oh yeah, this game exists in the real world.
But yeah, it's interesting that right now they're really trying to preserve games, but then they'll do stuff like delist Afterburner Climax for 360 for no reason, which hopefully we'll get that on modern consoles. But
Yeah, that does suck. I never downloaded that one, I missed that.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I screwed myself on that one.
Yeah, for me, that was Marvel vs. Capcom.
Mm.
The what was it? Marvel vs. Capcom Origins on PS3 was removed.
Yeah,
Something like that.
something like that, yeah.
Digital versions of games always irritate me. That's why I like seeing
Yep.
them in Yakuza, because it's a disc version that's going to stay
Exactly.
around forever.
Yep.
But it's like, I've got games on my 360 that I can never delete because if I do, I'm never getting them again. Like the Simpsons arcade game
Yep.
was
Another
only
one.
released
Yep.
home that version, and it bugs me that that.
TMNT reshelled.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that really irritates me. You know, I think of all the companies out there, Sega has been the best at preserving their stuff. and like re-releasing them, mostly because I think they got nothing else going.
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
It's like you got to make money somehow, so it's nice to see them doing
We'll
that.
call
stuff.
it preservation.
Yeah, I'll call it yeah. I mean,
Preservation of the business.
Not laziness, it's
Yeah.
preservation.
Sega forever.
It's just I like seeing Sega do that because they've got such this amazing history, and there's games that they still haven't brought over that are from the past and stuff like that. I mean, Yakuza, it's a little, like Zero is really faithful to the original. I mean, there's barely anything changed, but with some of the older Yakuza games, they've altered text, dialogue.
They try to not translate it literally. They try to make it more socially conscious in North America. So like the panty thing in Yakuza 0 would never have been in there originally.
Yeah.
Not originally, like the hell with it. That's Yakuza 0, they're fine. But yeah, you're right. They edited a lot of the older ones.
Yeah, I think they removed like an entire dating system from one of the games too.
In 3, they
It was
removed
3?
I think they removed like the hostess club or something like that in 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that with Zero. That's that's a huge part of the game. It's
Yeah.
like there's literally like a whole mini game about having like a hostess club is like you wouldn't call it a strip joint. What would you call that?
Go-Go Club?
The go-go?
Go-Go, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know if there's an
I don't know
American
what the
equivalent.
levels
I don't
are.
think so either. It's been one of those things I've been.
It's
trying
like
to
it's
think of,
like how it was explained to me in the game. You just have a pretty girl sit by rich clients, and that was it.
Yeah,
I
like
was
a
like,
maid cafe.
that's a
something
thing
like
people
It's not even
do.
a cafe. Yeah, it's like you literally go to a bar and you pay money to just sit with somebody and have them pour drinks, and they can listen to you talk while you're drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
like-
basically it.
Like gay
Go on a
shit,
date.
very-
I don't know. It's weird. But if you want to experience that, it's in there. And it's great because Yakuza 0 is like a really neat time capsule type of game too.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
it takes
Yeah,
place
sure.
in the 80s, and you can see this whole other world and how it existed back then.
Yeah, it's kind of how Shenmue is.
And it's got fantastic music too.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
The music is great in that game.
Yeah, I remember walking through Shinjuku in Japan and just being like, "This looks exactly like Yakuza. This is amazing." So.
Do you ever think Sega's gonna be great again, like new consoles and stuff like that? Because like Atari's coming out with something new.
No, they're not.
Nope.
The Android
No,
box.
they're not. That's not going to be a thing.
The Atari console, Atari just announced a console. The Atari, many of us may know and love, has changed hands 7 or 6 times.
Yeah.
The Atari that exists now is probably some dude sitting in his basement that just released a video and went, "I'm gonna get people." Like, it's gonna be, okay, what it's gonna be, I don't have an Android phone, but it's gonna be one of these in a bigger box. Yeah, there you go. It's gonna be one of these in a bigger box, and it's gonna have the Atari logo on it. He's gonna strap some wood pane, like, plastic sheets to the side of it, and then he's gonna go, and guess what? You can run every Atari 2600 game.
1080p.
Who cares? Like, oh my god, everyone can do that on anything you own. I've got a wristwatch, literally could run Atari games right now. Like, it's not that impressive.
Yeah.
But the way he's going about it is like, let's just say they do release a console,
Yeah.
and they're like, we're gonna have exclusive games on the platform. Nintendo is struggling to get third-party support on the Switch. How is Atari gonna bring people back? I mean, it's not like they're like, are they still publishing games?
Yes.
Their name is on
Sadly.
stuff.
Wonder Dark Illumination, Haunted House, Christmas Graves, Asteroids, Crap.
Asteroids.
Yeah, that's a
Some
new
kind
IP.
of
That's
Asteroids
fresh.
game Where they kind of created this Minecraft thing.
Asteroids coming 2018. Can't wait. Experience it like you've never experienced asteroids before, but you have, and well, it's kind of the same thing.
platform ever made.
Can we get Michael Bay to do the video, like the ad?
That would be awesome. The asteroids, they really blow up.
I don't know. If Sega were to release a brand new console, they would have the exact same. Like, we all know how big Nintendo is. Nintendo's struggling with third party. If Sega were to release a new console, they'd have the exact same problems.
No, they'd have it way worse.
You think?
Oh, yes.
Way worse than dude in the basement making an Atari box?
No, worse than Nintendo.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, they would have it worse. Because I think it's one of the biggest problems is look. We all want a Dreamcast too,
Yeah.
but the fact is, it's just it
Never
can't
gonna happen. It's
happen.
not possible.
Nah.
Not
The
possible.
only thing you can hope for is just for them to put the games out on the systems that you already own.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't have to buy new hardware.
Yeah.
It's, you know, we already own the Dreamcast too. We just need to get Sega to put the games out.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think like preserving Sega and actually like having them make games like the Yakuza, I still think they're good. Like I don't like
Yeah.
Sega has pulled back a bit from the large production of all the other games used to make, but Yakuza is like this.
The last visage.
It's everything has been refined into one solid franchise they're making. I don't know if the new Sonic games are going to be good because it's always different concepts, always different games. Sonic Mania looks amazing.
Yeah, it does.
I've played
beautiful.
that. I played it briefly at like a Nintendo event on the Switch, and it's really, really good. And it feels like Sonic 4. Sorry, an actual after Sonic 3.
Right.
Yeah, because we didn't get
Yeah.
4. And it feels like, but like that is Christian Whitehead
Christian Whitehead and Headcanon Studios.
Yeah, and that's not actually a Japanese company, but they're making this amazing experience. So there's still a lot of really good Sega stuff coming out that not only feels new, but it feels like they're pulling back from older experiences as well. So there's still a lot there to like, and I think they're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's not, this is like an example of Sega making good decisions, because if I don't know exactly the history around this new Sonic game, but from what I believe, they sort of like decided to work with people who were already kind of modding.
Oh yeah.
Right, so like these were kind of modders, and they were like, you know what, they're doing such a damn good job, let's just let them make a new game.
Yeah.
And that's a great,
It's a great
fantastic
mentality.
decision.
They did the same thing. I mean, you know too well. So it's Shenmue. Well, granted, Sega isn't handling Shenmue 3, but they're hiring modders to make that game. Sega is pretty cool at that kind of thing. But really, what you want is like the Sega experience. I think that's what when we say Dreamcast 2, that's what we mean. We want to have those kind of experiences again. You have to fund the handful of times they give you that. When they give you Yakuza, support it.
Yeah.
When they give you Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, which is a really good game, support that.
They need to be able to take risks.
Yeah,
They need
those
money
are
to do
those
that.
are the fan service options where they eventually throw you a bone like we could do something else. You have to help them out on that because Yakuza's never really sold well over here.
It's
You
really
gotta,
nice.
You gotta pay them.
It's really nice
Shut
and
up, James.
reminiscent. Yeah, right. Sorry. It's really nice and reminiscent of like old Sega, because like when they do throw you that bone, it kind of reminds you of like that time where like they just didn't care, just did what they wanted, you know.
Yeah. I mean that was nuts of them, but it was fun.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, the 8-Bit Duke, he's a guest, he's a YouTube channel, he's been walking around the floor. If you see him, shake his hand and tell him he's got an amazing channel. He did this really great video on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that Christian Whitehead made for cell phones. And you're probably thinking, oh, it's going to be touch screen, Sonic the Hedgehog, that's going to be garbage. Whoa. It's the best version of Sonic ever released. I don't know how. He's a wizard, a warlock, figured out how to make things work. You don't miss the D-pad. And it's widescreen, amazing frame rate. I actually, if somebody were to tell me right now, you want to go play Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I'd be like, yeah, on my phone. I wouldn't even choose the original anymore. That's how good that one is. And this guy's making Sonic Mania. And that's what I'm excited about. Sega's getting people like that to make new games, and I think that's really going to solidify them in the future if they keep making really good experiences like that, and accepting North American developers too.
Exactly.
Because Nintendo, they don't want that. But Sega, you know, they've got Yakuza and a lot of really amazing hotels I hear. Just fantastic ones.
And a lot of pachinko machines.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of their income.
If you think
Where's
Konami's
that?
bad.
I don't know. Sega at least still tries to do something.
Yes, Sega tries, Konami wants you dead.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you think Konami loves you, they don't even like the people that work for them. They are an evil,
Oh my
vicious
God.
company.
Oh, yeah.
And if somebody's in there that's ready to shoot me from Konami, that's gonna happen. It's that kind of company too.
Hashtag fuck Konami.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm a Nintendo kid. I've never owned a Sega console in my life.
Get out.
I want to get into it. I want to get into it. I can play the cues on like Xbox and stuff like that. What Sega console though would you recommend someone like me who's never played the game?
You played Yakuza on the Xbox? That's bad. That's terrible. It's not there. Now, where would we start if you want to get some Sega love?
I mean, I would, me personally, I would say Master System, because that's kind of where I got started, but...
I can't recommend the Master System.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, like, there's a lot of nostalgia attached to it, and there's, you know, finding those games that'll really kind of, like, hook you in. You're probably better off on starting in the Genesis.
What was your first Nintendo console?
SNES.
Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
Genesis, yeah.
You're going to have a lot of experiences there that you simply didn't have access to in the Super Nintendo world. A lot of really good 2D platformers, a lot of really good fighting games,
Lots of good shooters, like,
Streets of Rage.
Yeah. The problem,
yeah.
The problem with the Genesis and its best titles is they're not that well known. I mean, in this room, yes, like Gunstar Heroes, things like that. But to the mass audiences, they only know Sonic. So if you're going to pull out a few recommended Genesis titles, what would you say?
Batman. Star. Toe Jam and Earl.
Ask the audience. You're in a convention right now where there's people on here that will be able to tell you incredibly weird, strange Sega games that are going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask us. Ask everybody here.
Rocket Knight Adventure.
Mine's going to be Phantasy
Okay,
Star
that's
4.
that man right there. That
Rocket
knows
Knight
what's going
Adventures
on.
and Sparkster are both
Both
great.
really good.
Booker Man.
Eddie.
Look at this, right? See? Sega made great games.
RoboCop versus Terminator.
Yes.
Badass game. Badass.
I like Comic Zones a lot.
Comic Zone.
Comic
Zone is amazing.
Oh my
That's a
God.
good
Comic Zone
game.
is amazing.
This is just gonna be a loving now.
Here's a random one. McDonald's Treasureland Adventure.
You think it sucks?
You would think it sucks. It's made by Treasure. They made Ikaruga. This game is amazing. It's an amazing
Yeah,
platform.
Treasure does not mess around.
It's a platform where you play as Ronald McDonald and you have like clown powers and you kill stuff. It's ridiculous. But it's awesome. One of the best platformers on the console, and nobody bothers because they're like, why would that be good?
And when you
Lion King, no thanks. That's the real Dark Souls. Like that. What was that? Lion King for the Genesis. Oh, God. Good luck.
which version is the better Aladdin? Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis?
Aladdin.
Genesis by
Genesis. There you go, right?
Yeah, that's the
Two
cool
of the
thing.
same games. One version is so much better
That's
on the system.
one of the best things about that generation is you had different developers making the same game. So in that case, Sega made Aladdin, Capcom made it for the Super Nintendo. So you had two totally different games based on the same thing, as opposed to now where they make one game, they just port it twice.
I'm gonna give you 2 hidden gems, if I can rob the hidden gems thing from Metal Jesus. Okay, so right off the top of the bat, one game that it sucks on everything else, but the Sega Genesis on Sega Genesis version, it's amazing. Home Alone. Home Alone on the Sega Genesis introduced crafting mechanics. It's the first game to do it besides another weird, obscure DOS RPG. You can actually build weapons in the game. And you don't read it through the manual, you have to go online, find ways to do it, or just get a whole bunch of components together and think. You set up traps like you would in Home Alone in multiple houses. The wet bandits come in and you have to get rid of them and stuff like that. It's amazing, incredibly well done game. It actually remembers the traps you set up in multiple houses too, and it's a crazy good thing. Multiple difficulties on it. Enter in with the easy mode, then play the difficult mode. I promise you, you won't be going back to play it again and again, but you'll have a good time. On the Game Gear, this one's important. It's called Magical Puzzle Popples. This is quite possibly the best mobile game ever released on the Game Gear, and I would actually say it's a far better game than anything they've ever released on the Game Boy because I'm that much of a fan of this game. This game introduced save states where if you turned off the Game Gear and turned it back on, remember the exact level you left off at, which no other game, we had to get to DS before they started doing that.
Yep.
This game is crazy. It has a level builder in it. It's a beautiful little puzzle game with a lot of really good music. It was made by Tenjin. The reason why people didn't know about it is because one of the guys, and this is hilarious, one of the developers of the game, I forget his name, was working at Tenjin. They were supposed to make an NES version of this game, but they ended up making a Game Gear version instead. The NES version didn't come out, and the NES version was a rumor for the longest time. But the guy that made the game has a YouTube channel, 10 subscribers, only 30 people have seen the video that he has on there of Magical Puzzle Popples on the NES, and it's amazing. And he's the only person in the world that has the code for this game. No one else has it, but if you want to play it, you can only get it on the Game Gear. It's unlike any other puzzle game you've ever played, and it's amazing. And when you stop playing it, you can make your own levels to keep going further and testing other people's abilities on it and stuff. That's a Game Gear game with level building abilities. Sega games were way ahead of a lot of other things.
That was always Sega's problem. They always did amazing things that were years ahead of time, but they were terrible at telling you about it. So
Yeah,
they invented save states, but nobody knows.
One day somebody at the Sega office was like, you know what? I want to talk to a fish.
We got one
slap a
man
fish
qualified
around.
to talk about that. I'll just put down the mic here. You go for it.
Go.
Yeah, and have you guys ever played Seaman? Yeah, so that's just a great example of Sega just having money to take a risk, or just having the idea or whatever to take a risk. But I don't know, that is a border decision that I really wish that I was in on, because to hear that pitch, to go from pitch to actual product, what the?
Can you describe the game?
What?
Describe the game.
Okay, all right, yeah. So if you guys don't know what Seaman is, it's basically an aquarium simulator. where you're sort of like you're creating your own kind of fish that has a face, and it's voiced by
Human
Leonard
face.
Nimoy.
Yes.
Voiced by Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah. So and you can like control the temperature of the aquarium. You can like feed it. You can abuse it if you want to. Like slap the fish around. You can do all this weird stuff.
And you can talk to it.
And you
It
can
had a
talk to it. It had a
microphone.
microphone.
And
It was
it could
like
understand you and give responses.
Yeah.
And like competent responses.
Yeah.
Like,
And it would be Leonard Nimoy talking back to you. Like you would say something to the game, and it would
Did you do the
understand
main
it.
menu and then someone else did the fish?
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy was the narrator.
Maybe it's been a while since
It was
I played
crazy to just turn off and go, but it's not like Leonard Nimoy being someone else. The game starts and goes, "Hello, I'm Leonard Nimoy, and you're playing a game called Seaman." And it was weird.
It was so weird.
When I was in high school, I got a Dreamcast, had this game, and I was telling my friends, and everyone was going, "What are you playing?" "Oh, we're playing Smash Brothers." "Oh, what are you playing?" "Oh, we're playing this, that." And I was like, "Well, Shane, what are you playing?" "I'm talking to a fish on my TV when I come home from school. We talked about world geopolitics." What?
Yeah. That's like Sega experiences in a nutshell. Just insanity, and they're fun, and they're crazy, and no one's ever heard of them, except for the super fans.
Apparently, there's a rumor they're coming out with a sequel.
There
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
sequel.
they just
There's been a
announced something
sequel
pretty
in
recently.
Japan. Seaman 2 came out like 10 years ago on the PlayStation 2.
Oh, shit.
Nobody knows.
I did not know that.
Exactly.
It's you raise a little Neanderthal, and he's like a little mini Neanderthal. Problem is, we can't have this game here because unless you speak Japanese, you can't make the system or the game work. But they are apparently making a new version, and the new version is going to be English translated, and I believe it's going to be a sequel. Sorry, sequel to the system.
Yes, there will be another Seaman. We live in that world. It's happening.
But yet we can't get a Phantasy Star 5.
Yeah, right.
No.
It ain't gonna happen.
You mentioned this a little bit before, but this could be a little bit broader than just Sega itself. Do you feel that a lot of Japanese companies should be a bit more receptive to trying to work with Western studios and stuff like that?
Sure.
I feel they should. Will they? No.
Well, what's Mario Odyssey running on? Is it Unreal? No, I know it's Switch. Is it the Unreal Engine?
I'm just being sarcastic.
The Yoshi game that they showed off is on Unreal. I
Okay.
think Mario's on there.
I know that doesn't sound like a big deal. That's a massive deal.
Yeah.
Because that's Nintendo going, maybe we don't have to make engines unique for every single one of our games. The fact that they're willing to do that is a big deal. When we got Metroid Prime, I was so excited. I was like, dude, a Texas company's making a Metroid game? Kick ass. So I thought they were going to keep doing stuff like that, but they really didn't. And there are so many amazing American developers. When Nintendo let go of Rare, it shocked everyone. And then when they went to go work with Microsoft, they're like, well, at least we're going to keep getting good games from them. Nope. We got Avatars. That happened.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah, they made those. So those were nice. But with a lot of Japanese companies, I think it's very important for them to become far less xenophobic and work with people outside of Japan, because it's a very like closed net ideology that Japan has for developing video games, where they want to work in house. But I think that's something that you see Ubisoft is really good at, working with multiple teams from across the world to create one great video game when they make good games. So it's like really important for Sega to do the same thing, and that's why I'm so excited to see Sonic Mania, because it's this like, look, I don't even think like any of the Japanese staff is working on Sonic Mania, you know, it's just him, Christian Whitehead and his team.
A lot of the best Sonic games over the past few years have had nothing to do with Sega Japan. Like the Sonic Sega All-Stars Racing, that's a British developed game.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the original Sonic was like this big, huge guy with like chains around his neck, and he had like this young girl friend named Madonna, and he looked like a rock star.
Yeah,
and then
to the band.
yeah, and then yeah, that's right. And then it was Tom Kalinske. Thank you, Tom Kalinske, that worked with his team at Sega America, and they basically redesigned the entire thing to look different.
No, actually, it was the marketing director, a woman who made most of the major decisions to cut it off. She said she softened Sonic up.
Yeah, and but all Sega of America based. Japan had a different idea for what Sonic should have been, and the American branch decided to change the image up and make the image what it was.
This kind of created problems down the road.
Yeah. But they did this great job of basically making Sonic what you know as Sonic today. A lot comes from that image and stuff, and that's when the companies work together and they share ideas and stuff. But even with Nintendo, you really don't see that happening. Like Nintendo Treehouse, they make interesting ideas, but the really like amazing things that happen at Treehouse in Nintendo of America were things like Donkey Kong Country, where they had Rare making this crazy idea for a game, and that stuff happened over here. But then they don't really do that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. It would be very nice if they did that, but I mean, James and I can probably tell you, like, they have a really myopic view of how to do things. Like, it's very much just keep it Japanese focused, and Sega's better at it, but
I
Nintendo
meant to
is
say myopic, not xenophobic. That's what I just.
Yeah, myopic, meaning they just have like a very closed, one world perspective. Sega's better at it, but they have less of a dog in the fight anymore. Nintendo is still kind of like, we want to focus mostly on what Japan cares about, and everybody else can just kind of have the scraps.
Yeah. It's also nice to see Sega is allowing like other companies to work on their IPs. Like for instance, with like Shenmue 3, like Sega's not making that, YSNet is, and for them to just hand it over is also kind of a nice development on.
Yeah, they don't get nearly enough credit for that.
Sure. Oh yeah.
When you remember all the Kickstarters were happening, you know, Bloodstained happened because Konami would not allow Castlevania to exist. Mighty Number 9 happened because Capcom would not allow Mega Man to exist. When we wanted Shenmue 3, Sega said, fine. We didn't have to get Cave Escaper Man. Like, we didn't have to do that. We got Shenmue 3. They allow people to do that. And but it's one of those things, Sega just doesn't get credit for stuff.
Yep.
Hopefully they'll release Shenmue HD sometime.
I'll let them know
that's the
if you
dream.
want.
I think they have a website register. Maybe there's no.
Yeah, that's standard procedure. That's like making patents for products you have no interest in. That's just you just protecting your possible future interest. It doesn't really mean anything. Sorry, didn't bring it down. Yeah, Shenmue HD, let's do it.
Got a question right there?
Go for it.
What do you think of the Sega channel?
Oh, that was neat.
I never got to use it.
I never got to use it.
never
It's
got
a
to use
neat
it.
concept.
Yeah, me neither.
None of us used it.
I lived in Canada. That was not happening where I live, man. Oh, it was
Do you want to
cool.
explain what it was?
Well, a Sega channel basically was this little box that you had that, you hooked it up to the cartridge slot, you hooked it up to your coaxial cable line, and games would be streamed to the internet, which coaxial internet, even at that point,
1993 internet.
yeah, like that predates the cable internet I had in my house. And it would download it into like a not flash, but
It would store let's just say it stored the
store the
game.
information within that cartridge, and you could actually play the game again and again and again. The idea was, instead of having to leave your house, you could just have the thing there and play games straight
Games
from
on
there.
demand.
Yeah, and the game changed every night, was it?
Yeah, and there were some games that were never released on cartridge. I think Golden Axe 3 was one of them.
Pulseman too, I think was one.
Which is interesting because it kind of gives the feeling like maybe even back then they were looking into like an online only solution for distribution.
Yeah, and in North America, Mega Man Wily Wars is like a remaster of the first 3 Mega Man games, and that was never released on Sega Genesis. There's no other Mega Man games on there, but on a Sega channel, there actually was this one version. You could probably find some repo carts of it out there now. Where
It was released in Europe.
Yeah. But it's like it was something you simply, if you're North American and you want to play it at the time, that was really the only way, unless you went to Europe.
Actually, funny enough about that, there is a physical kind of version of that. Our boys at Games, there's a version of that has Wily Wars. It was like the 2012
yes.
version, and it was only that version. So to this day, that's the only like official retail release of Wily Wars in North America.
And it's on the Sega Genesis.
It's
like
on one of the Games systems of all things.
Yeah. So that's a funny thing. If you think Sega died at any point in Brazil,
Yes.
Yeah, Brazil.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go to town.
All right. So, to those who don't know, in Brazil, the Sega Master System is still the dominant
Going
console,
strong.
and it's been going consistently since the mid '80s. It's the world's longest running console. Who knew that?
There are more versions of Sega Master System in Brazil than there are of any other version of Sega console, period, anywhere else. Like, there's a variation there called the Sega Game Girl. And it's a pink console that takes Master System games, and what you do is you hook up an aerial to the back of your TV, and then you sit far away, and then you extend like a little a line out, and you just literally play your video game console, your home console, in your hand, but the image of the system is being broadcast to the TV across the air, because they wanted to make an entirely wireless system, and it's marketed for girls. Just think about that. We don't even have that here. We got the Game Boy, not the Game Girl. And these guys were like, "Oh, we got that much say in the industry at this point here. We just do whatever we want." Like I think it might have been Ad Games or Tech Toy. Tech Toy in Brazil
Brazilian.
got Duke Nukem 3D on the Sega Genesis, and all it is a modification of a pre-existing Sega game that was a first-person shooter, and they just ported it over and they put in like Duke Nukem 3D elements and stuff. Only exists in Brazil. It's really weird stuff.
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
a zero tolerance they
for-
used.
Zero tolerance. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, they still get new titles for Master System and Genesis down there. And Nintendo pulled out of there in like the late 80s, and they've had no one else go in because Brazil has all sorts of like insane import tax laws and stuff, so no one wants to operate down there except for Sega because they predate it.
Yeah, they also have some exclusive Sonic games, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
They're actually pretty decent.
Like there's the Sega Master System version of Sonic Spinball.
Yeah.
Only released down there.
Oh, yeah.
Super expensive though.
Yeah.
Rob.
So we only have a couple minutes left, so you want to do some power round questions real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Oh no, just going back to introduction to like Genesis games, the Sonic Ultimate Collection is probably the best bet because you get like
the 360 one?
yeah, it's like $15, you know.
I'm glad you brought that up because that says something about Sega of North America. That release is called Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection here. Everywhere else, just called the Mega Drive Collection. They don't put Sonic's name on it because here that's the only thing people know about Sega in mass audiences. Oh, that Sonic thing, the blue guy. Yeah, I'll buy that. So, but he's right. It is a good collection. It's available for the PS3 and the Xbox 360.
Yeah, it's like super cheap.
It is really good. It's on the Vita too.
Yeah.
What are you guys' favorite obscure North American Genesis or Sega titles?
McDonald's Treasureland Adventure.
Mine was Balls 3D.
Balls is good.
Balls 3D was good.
I have to second the McDonald's game actually.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
You would never expect it. You just never would see it. I mean, I bought it when I was a kid because I was a fat kid, and I was like, but, no, it's actually a really good game.
Decap Attack.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So Decap Attack, which is crazy, I was randomly playing through a bunch of Japanese versions of games, and I came across the Japanese version of Decap Attack. Does not look the same. Dude, it starts up, like the American one starts up with like like just a whole bunch of like weird people. It's all monster themed. The Japanese one, it's all like kid themed.
It's like cutesy.
It's based on an anime.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh my God! See, I'm learning stuff up here. I didn't know any of that. So when I was a kid, it was just this amazing game where you lost your head and stuff like that, and it was a completely different experience in Japan. I thought that was so cool. That's like one of the weird localizations I've ever seen. Like, let's make it worse in North America. Let's make it more violent. I was like, wow. Okay.
Well, see, Sega of America at the time was trying to focus more on the older, like teen demographic, when they thought Nintendo was child friendly. So that was why they would do stuff like that. Because at the time, if you had a Nintendo console, oh, that's cute. That's kind of kiddish. That's the kind of thing that's like still liking Power Rangers when you're my age. At least that's how it was perceived. Although I do like Power Rangers. But like Sega stuff was like, oh, that's the cool one. That's the one you can be, you can talk about. People think that's awesome. That's how they marketed it, and that's why they would make changes like that.
Yep.
Mortal Kombat, see blood.
Yeah, yeah, that's an infamous example. Real blood in Mortal Kombat on Sega stuff, and like green blood or no blood on Nintendo stuff.
Puppies and giggles.
Yeah. Mostly babalities, no fatalities.
Didn't they do a
Mortal
cat
Kombat 2 and
simulator?
SNES have full blood.
I'm pretty sure they did. Other questions?
All right, then I guess that's it. Thank you,
All
everybody.
right, thanks, guys.
Everybody.